1 minute. T-minus 50 seconds. T-minus 40 seconds. T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
And a good day to you all. Hello, hello, hello. Well, it's Sunday, so we are definitely doobing it, or whatever it is that you cool kids say nowadays. I've just realized that I can take a pretty good bong hit in less than a minute. I mean, I kind of knew that, but it's timed when I actually have the intro going that says 1 minute. And then I got to do this. Hello to you all. Thank you so much. Thank you to you specifically for listening to this right now. Just to you. Nobody else. Nobody matters. Nobody else matters. So good morning to you all. Good afternoon. Good evening. Whatever it is, wherever you are. I just finished. No, that's it. That's the whole statement. No, I'm kidding. I just finished doing the newest episode of The Law Live Audio Wrestling. For those of you, there it is right there. It looks much better than my face. I'll tell you that much. For those of you that have not had a chance to check it out yet, you can do so by going to all of your podcast providers and looking up The Law Live Audio Wrestling. And you'll see it there. You also follow us on Twitter at The Law Wrestling. On X, I guess it would be now, not Twitter anymore. Does anybody even call it X? And that's something you say about people that you dated once, right? Actually, I got a theory on that. You don't really call them your exes. You shouldn't call them your ex. You should call it your why. As in, why did I bother doing that? So there you have that. If you could, go give it a follow. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. This week we talked about the UFC 294 that just passed, the Impact Wrestling pay-per-view Bound for Glory that just passed. We give a preview of the NXT Halloween Havoc coming up. And then I have a sit-down interview that we play with a good friend and Impact superstar, Crazy Steve. If you don't know Crazy Steve's story, you're going to want to check this out. Just to give you a little bit of insight. And yes, there's a pun to that because Crazy Steve is actually one of the only, to my knowledge, professional wrestlers out there right now who is legally blind. So, that whole character from Trailer Park Boys that Bubbles plays, and he's a blind human. Well, picture that, but as an actual professional wrestler. Those kind of glasses. He's born with some crazy cataract thing in his eyes, even after getting them removed. Didn't help at all. So go check out that story once again. That's The Law Live Audio Wrestling. Cheap plug on all your podcast providers. All the links as well. And you can follow them on Twitter or X, on Threads, at The Law Wrestling. Not to be confused with, there is another live audio wrestling. If you haven't been paying attention to the story and the way that it goes, I named the show 26 plus years ago. Went on to do my thing. A lot of people took care of it, so to speak, made it flourish, made it grow, did great things with it. And then some people just let it slip through their fingers, so to speak. And lo and behold, I came along, decided to restart the thing up. An opportunity was presented to me to restart a show. And when I found out that the name that I originally created, along with my godfather's podcasting co-host, Donnie Abreu, back in the late 90s, called The Law, Live Audio Wrestling, I took it. I trademarked it, copyright it. I own it. Nothing y'all can do about it. Except join the ride and have some fun. Don't be a hater. Right? There's nothing worse than the people that are like, oh, F that guy. It was never his, blah, 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 and a bunch of bullshit. Don't hate. Just enjoy it. Embrace it. Hold it while I drive it in. Anyways. So some of you may have missed last week. I did not do a show last week. I had other obligations that I had to take care of. So it kind of led me to, people sending me messages saying, hey, we want a show. We want a show. Kind of leads to the name of this show. You want to win? It's not really how it works. I mean, yes, I would love to be on a perfect schedule. But unfortunately, much like all of this podcasting kind of stuff goes and this internet thing, and don't get it twisted, I enjoy seeing you guys and talking to you guys. And good morning, Tiff. Good morning, Terry. And what do you mean, Terry? What is this supposed to mean? I have your original stuff on 8-track. You son of a... Listen, I had 8 tracks. I don't anymore because I don't have an 8-track player. So that, I mean, joking aside, I don't know if we recorded on 8-track, but we did record those original shows on DAT, D-A-T, DAT tapes. If you know what DAT tapes are, I mean, it might as well be an 8-track. I can remember I had an 8-track player when I was a kid, probably like second, third grade. We had one of those gigantic console TVs, the great big huge one piece that like the entire top flipped up and had the radio and the record player, an 8-track player, and then the TV, and the thing weighed like 19,000 pounds. You might as well have been trying to lift up a Harley on your own trying to move this TV console. And we had one of those things, and it's probably for me what would have been grade 2, grade 3. I can remember sitting there and playing. We backed onto this busy street, like the house we lived in. You'd go in the side door, but that had a front door that went onto this busy street. And I used to play the 8-track of Kiss, Destroyer, just so that I could play Detroit Rock City because, grade 2, grade 3 or whatever, you thought it was a very funny joke when you would just get to that the crash sound. And I'd turn up the stereo as loud as I could so you could hear it out on the street because, it never caused an accident or anything like that. I mean, some people walking by were like, why does this little fucking child have a stereo up so loud? But it never, to me, it was much funnier inside. And probably where my, repulsive sense of humor kind of came from at such a young age, thinking, this is going to be funny. I'm going to play the sound of a crash and it's going to cause people to hit their brakes instead of using their eyes to see what's in front of them. Listen, I never said that I was the smartest child. I just said that I thought I was a very funny child. Yeah, Terry, digital audio tapes, DAT tapes, right? But good luck finding a DAT player to convert all of those things down. Now, I know that somewhere online, I'm sure that somewhere online there is audio versions, of some of those original shows. We're talking original like pre 2000. Okay. Not when it was on Fan 590, although some of those, yeah. Because, I mean, let's face it. The reason that I stopped doing the show back then was kind of twofold. I was starting my pro wrestling endeavors and career at the time. And also the show was growing exponentially and had moved over to an actual radio station, Fan 590 radio station. And I mean, I was kind of nicely asked to, hey, go pursue your wrestling stuff a little bit more. And that, a conversation was had between myself and one of the guys in charge, Jeff Merrick, very good friend of mine. I have no hard feelings towards Jeff. Jeff and I are very good friends. But he was smart enough to know that at some point I was probably going to say something completely inappropriate and get everybody on that show fired. So, the life of one to save many was definitely in play with this one. So, and I was that life of one. So I get it, right? But now with just, our podcasting and some other stuff in the works, it gives us the ability to say a lot more than we want. You know what I mean? Or I don't know if say what we want, but say what we can. Let's go with that. You have the ability to say much more than the PMRC, no, not the PMRC, the CTC up here in Canada. And I guess I forget what it is in the States now. Whatever they will let you say. Anyways, I'm just fucking rambling here. Let's get down to it, shall we? All right. One of those things that, like, when I would, probably say such inappropriate things. To myself, I thought it was funny. Ribs, pranks, right? And it always asks, like, I don't know if any of you out there are the type of people that play pranks on one another. I know that there's some people that just don't fall for them. They're like, it's not my thing. I don't play that. Ooh, all right. And I used to be a lot worse for them than I am now. Maybe it's because I've gone through all of them. Because I think that, like, you would probably pull, and I know this for a fact because I've come up with some great ones. I just don't have the money to do so. I think that you would do a lot more pranks. I know I would if I was rich. And I am far from that. You know what I mean? Like, I would specifically buy and screw with my friends somehow if I was rich. I'd find ways, because I've seen how rich people prank one another. Now, I used to know this couple. He was a real estate agent, like one of those top 1% real estate agents, of which everybody seems to be a part of, whatever, back in the day. And I can remember when him and his wife got married, everybody, it was one of these real estate places where they'd be on their own softball teams, right? They'd have their own get-togethers. They were very, very in tune with one another. One time at a softball game, one of the guys decided that he was going to get some payback on a prank. Now, the original prank was the fact that inside of one of these cubicles, like in their real estate office, like their cubicle office, right? But it had like full walls, not like a cubicle like you'd see in Office Space or something like that. Like they're an actual little office, but somebody had decided that they were going away, and the rest of the office got together and filled up his entire cubicle, his office, with popcorn, like actual popcorn. And he came back, and as soon as he opened up his door, boom, popcorn spills out everywhere. It cost thousands of dollars for them to play this prank. At the end of the day, all the popcorn was cleaned up, bagged back up, and then donated to the zoo. They gave it to animals, right? It wasn't buttered or anything like that before we start getting any questions about that. No. As the get back, the person that did this, they were in a softball game one time. And at this softball game, and everybody's, playing, having a good time. Wives are there. Families are there. And this is a big outing. This was like their thing, was that they played on a softball team. And I get that. Lots of people do it. I used to do it. I did it when I was younger. Played on a softball team with my uncle. Played baseball as a kid, played softball on their team. Cool. But this was like weird. This was like some weird office culty, like everybody had to be a part of it, like Juice by You, Zis Boom Ba, fucking Rally the Troops, kind of weird. Culty, right? Real estate agents are kind of culty. But they're playing this game, surprisingly enough, against another group of real estate agents. See, told you. Fucking weirdos. And during this game, all of a sudden, cops show up. Just one cop, pulls up, and he walks over and starts asking for this gentleman. It's like, Harold, I'm not going to say his last name. Is Harold so-and-so here? Yeah, it's him right over there, officer. Calls him over, starts talking to him about the fact that his wife, who coincidentally was not at the game, his wife had a series of unpaid parking tickets that matched the vehicle that they had out in the parking lot. And that he was going to have to obviously take him downtown to talk about this stuff. Couldn't wait. They've been trying to get a hold of him. They said, nope. No problems. And in doing so, because, now some of the other people are like, what's going on? We're playing a game here. Why don't you just let him finish the game? He'll come down. It's just parking tickets, blah, blah, blah. People start getting a little bit irate. And then the police officer's like, listen, I don't want to call for backup. We're just gonna go. We're going to take care of this now. And then tells Harold, I am going to need to check you. So proceeds to secure him in handcuffs. And in putting him in the handcuffs, he then proceeds, after he clicks one of them, he very quickly clicks the other one to the cage on the backstop where they're talking. Okay. As he clicks this, everybody starts to laugh because everybody at the office had already known what was going to happen. Everybody except for Harold, of course, because these are the kinds of pranks that they would play on one another, is that everybody decided that they were going to, as a get back, okay? Because see, that was the thing. It was mob mentality. If you were pranking somebody other than you were involved. If it was on you, well, everybody else was involved. There's no loyalty to this entire game that they played. So they decided to get a male stripper for Harold, who was handcuffed to the backstop while this male stripper performed for him. Again, a couple $100. Like, these aren't cheap pranks. When I talk about pranks that we would pull on people, like in the locker rooms and stuff, we should go to the dollar store and you get a pack of like little tiny padlocks. Then you padlock their suitcases shut so that they can't get into their gear bag before the show. It's simple stuff like that. These guys were spending like hundreds and thousands of dollars on pranks. And it was at that point that I realized real estate agents make a lot of money. Remember, like I was saying at the beginning of this, when they got married, when Harold and his wife got married, a bunch of his friends and her kids, the daughter of which who I was dating, that's how I know these people, all decided that they were going to rearrange the house while they were gone on their honeymoon. And by rearrange, I mean, it wasn't just your typical, oh, we're going to short sheet the bed. That's funny stuff. No. They took the island out of the kitchen, moved it into the living room. She was so, the wife was so anal about one of these. They had one of these houses that had like a living room with all white furniture. You know, you walk into the house and had like the sitting room right off to the side with all white furniture that nobody ever went into. Nobody ever sat in it. Nobody, like, you might as well have had a rope to rope the thing off. You know what I mean? Nobody hung out there at all. So the island in the kitchen got moved into that room. So it was literally the first thing that they saw when they got home late at night after their honeymoon trip. Good morning, Brian Clowder. Nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Which meant that there was room in the kitchen. And if you have room in the kitchen, well, why not take apart their entire king-size bed set and set it up in the middle of the kitchen, which is exactly what we did. We took apart the entire bed, remade the entire thing, and short-sheeted it, of course, because, I mean, you're going to go all the way. You might as well go all the way. And we put this all together right in the middle of the kitchen. Good morning, Nilo. Nice to see you as well. Thanks for joining us. And you would think that that would be enough, like, because you get home late at night. I think they're getting in at like 1 o'clock in the morning by the time their plane landed, if I remember correctly. And they get, you know, last thing you want to do, like, you get home, you just want to go to bed. You just want to go to bed, right? What? Yeah. See, I believe that, Terry Nee. You look like the kind of person that would have the kind of money. I once bought my friend a Ferrari. He loves Lamborghinis. He was so mad. I mean, I would be too. Jeez. I mean, if you have your mind set on a Lamborghini and you show up with a Ferrari, they don't even sound alike. The hell. Randy Charpentier says he has a kitchen. Well, that's a good start, Randy. That's a good start. If you have an island in that kitchen, that's even better. I don't have an island in my kitchen. What the fuck do I know? So we set up the bed there, and you would think that that was enough. That was okay. No. There was still more pranking to do in the house. The bathtub in their ensuite, we decided to fill that up with Jell-O. Now that was a mission because we had to go to this place called Bulk Barn. You know, the name says it all. And we would they bought a whole tub of Jell-O mix because, you know, just buying those little boxes, holy crap, you'd be there for forever. They bought an entire tub. I don't know how much it cost them. I can only imagine a few $100 at least, just Jell-O. You know, we're talking like a 25-pound or 25-gallon drum of Jell-O, okay, powder, and proceeded to fill up the bathtubs with Jell-O. They also decided to put fish in the mailbox. That wasn't very good because they put it in on the Friday. I think they were getting home on the Sunday night, Monday or whatever, right? They put it in like Friday in the afternoon. So it was there for a couple of days over the weekend. They moved all of their dishes, took all of their dishes and boxed them up and put them away in the garage so that she would have had to unpack everything again. And these are just some of the things that they did. And this was rich people stuff. I, for one, couldn't believe it. Now, I don't know what some of, going back to Terry Nee's comment, though, and I said, if I was rich, I would probably pull a prank like that. If I knew that, like, one of my friends, if one of my friends was really into Lamborghinis, right, but absolutely despised a Datsun, I'd buy him a fucking Datsun. You know what I mean? It'd be those kinds of pranks. Tierney says, I feel bad for young guys. Our pranks would get them prosecuted today. Yeah, 100%. 100% it would, Tierney. There is no doubt about it that the things that you can get away with now are very minimal. Very minimal. I don't know if that's, because society has changed or they've been pussified. I like to, think that they have been pussified. And I don't know, because I don't see it through the eyes of an 18-year-old anymore. I see it through the eyes of a very jaded 50-some-odd thousand-year-old. We'll just go with that. But I don't look a day over 72. So it's a win for me. We used to pull a lot of pranks, even when I first started in the wrestling business. And that was nothing compared to like what they used to do to guys back in the day. Could you imagine? Like they would literally H-bomb people on airplanes. And H-bombing is where you put halcyon in their drink. Like you basically dose somebody with GHB or halcyon or roofies or, whatever, right? And then when they were out cold on the airplane, you'd shave off an eyebrow or half of their hair, right? These are true stories. These are things that actually happened. There's a professional wrestler by the name of Pat Tanaka who had this happen to him. He tells me the story about how he was on a plane and they did just that. They bombed him. And everybody thought it was funny. We're going to drug this guy until he passes out and maybe dies, maybe doesn't. Who knows? You can never get away with that nowadays. But they also, what they went and did is they shaved half of his head. And they were on there. They were flying to a place. They were to Vegas, I believe, because they had to do TV. Could be wrong on the city, but they were going to do TV. So he had to wear like a bandana, all biker cut, like welders, and cover up his head. And who he was in there with, he tells them straight up, he's like, it's going to be so bad. Like, just whatever you do, like, can we just work light enough? Like, don't pull the bandana off, because of the fucking hair. No problem. No problem at all. Don't pull the hair, do that to you. Soon as the bell rings, reaches over there, grabs him in a headlock and pulls it right off of his head. And now we're ribbing each other on TV. Right? You couldn't get away with stuff like that nowadays. You just couldn't. So Terry, you're exactly right. Man, can only imagine. I'd love to hear from some of you guys. Leave them in the comments. Some of the pranks that you would pull that you can't get prosecuted for nowadays. Like stealing cars is not a funny prank. I guess, it would have been. As a kid, we probably, there's a certain line that we thought that it was, we're just pulling pranks. No, it's criminal activity, right? Breaking into a car in the middle of the night is not a prank. It's a criminal activity. Stealing your friend's car is a prank. Stealing a car that you think is your friend's car is criminal activity. See the difference here, folks? Right? Another infamous wrestling-related prank story I was mentioning about the padlocks. Well, guys would go too far back in the day, and one of the days they were having an AWA, which I used to grew up watching at the Showboat Hotel Casino in Las Vegas. AWA had a real problem with guys playing too many pranks on one another, just like I was talking about with H-bombing people. And I guess The way that it goes is the boss had to have a meeting with everybody, calls everybody into the meeting because it was getting out of control. People were like, you go to rent a car in the town you're in, and somebody would come along and put a padlock on the door handle, right? Put padlocks on the bumper, put padlock everywhere you could. Take the car back, it's got scratches, whatever. It's a piece of shit. So it got out of hand with all of these pranks. And so much so that, they had to have a meeting. And then so they're having the meeting, and everybody is sitting there as the boss is reading them the riot act about all these pranks. These pranks have to stop. If you don't like it, I'll fire everybody. We'll bring in a whole new crew. We'll start all this TV stuff all over again. I've had it with these pranks. It's gone too far, right? Just then, heavyweight champion Nick Bockwinkel walks into the meeting. He was the champ, late. Always dressed nice, though. Dressed up fantastic, had his sunglasses, looked great. Well, he comes in, and he's got his sunglasses, and somebody had taken and put a padlock right over the bridge of his sunglasses. And he was pissed. He was pissed. He comes in, and he's ranting and raving and hollering. Who the hell did this? Beat your ass. These are custom sunglasses. Rah, rah, rah. He's mad. And the boss is sitting there looking at everybody, goes, see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. It's exactly why I'm so pissed off at you guys. I've had it. We're done. And he gets up to leave and goes to grab his briefcase. And somebody had slapped a piece of chain around his briefcase handle and chained it to the desk while he was talking. They pranked this guy while he was talking about being pranked. Now, did he miss a beat? Nope. He just dragged the entire desk over to the door and blocked everybody in the room. Now, he didn't fire anybody afterwards. But, it was harmless pranks like that a lot of people would do, right? Some of the more dangerous ones, they could get you in trouble. Like, I can remember a time where a guy tells me a story about somebody had changed out another worker's inhaler, put butane in this inhaler. Thought that would be a funny joke. The guy gets done with his match, ends up taking a big old mouthful of butane. Not the same at all. So pissed off, in fact, that he reached into his bag and pulled out a gun, asking who the fuck did this in the locker room. So there's some pranks that you can't prank people, right? There's some people that just don't like to be a part of a prank. They don't prank anybody else. So therefore they feel like they shouldn't be pranked either, right? And then there's other people that just, you can prank them all day long. And there's other people that don't want to be pranked so much that they'll pull a gun out on you. And that's just crazy. We would throw snowballs at muscle cars because we knew they would chase us. Plus, we heard them coming. Were you standing in the road when you threw these things at muscle cars? Like, we would, stand on bridges and throw stuff off, or the story infamously, I'm sure it's happened in many, many cities, but I know somebody that threw a mannequin off of an overpass onto the highway that caused so much drama, so much trouble. Police had to come because, they thought that somebody had thrown a body off of an overpass onto the highway. That one made news. That was good stuff. VW bugs were always vulnerable to being removed because they didn't weigh much. Yeah, moving somebody's car, or turning it sideways, like back and just grabbing the back end and turning it right sideways and, jamming it in there with two other vehicles so that they can't get out. That was always a good one. One of my favorite pranks, that I was, I guess it's been enough years. One of my favorite pranks that has happened in multiple cities as well. Again, criminal activity to prank ratio, I don't know. But the Bob's Big Boy would always go missing in whatever town you were in. That was always a hoot, when they would find it, because it wasn't like you were taking this gigantic, fat child in overalls statue home with you. Because what were you going to do? Show it off to your friends and neighbors? No, somebody's going to rat you out. Like, absolutely rat you out. You're not going to get it through your door, so you can't hide it in your house, right? So literally you would take this thing and you would just take it someplace else, just reappropriate it, just move it, right? The Bob's Big Boy that got stolen in North Las Vegas, Nevada, ended up on the football field 50-yard line, one of the schools. Now, that borderline's criminal activity, but still a prank. If it's really cold outside, now I may or may not have known somebody who has done this one. If it's really cold outside in the winter and you have to walk to school still, right? But not cold enough to where there's snow on the ground, but there could be, because that's definitely cold enough. And you have to walk to school, and you'd see those people that would be silly enough to go warm up their vehicle and not lock the door. Before the days of remote starters for your vehicle, they'd go and start up the car and then go back inside until it warmed up. Well, in that period of time, you hop in the car and you drive to school, because now it's warm. School's not really that far away, right? You're going to be there before the cops come looking for the car, right? So you hop in the vehicle, you drive it to the school, and then when you get it to the school, you leave it on the other side of the field, like not on school property, but near school property. So you just got to walk, across the field and you're at school. Then what you do is you tell somebody, or you call it in, because you call it in from the payphone and say, hey, there's a car running over there, but nobody's in it. You might want to check it out. Then it's no harm, no foul. Nothing's been stolen. You just wanted a warm ride to school. The person gets their car back. Cops don't even fill out any paperwork because, nothing was done. And they think of it as a harmless, childish prank. Well, that's auto theft. That's not a childish prank. Joyriding, right, is what they would call it. You'd steal somebody's car and go joyriding. That was considered a prank back in the day. Nowadays, you're going to jail, right? You done fucked around. Now you're going to find out. Here's my question for all of you. Have you ever met a murderer? I don't mean you were hanging out and mooning is okay. Hold on a second. We're going to get to this in a second. Hold off on this. Mooning is a sexual offense. That's not really. That used to be something that was regularly done as you were driving down the highway. You'd always, it was showcased in movies. Somebody's mooning the carload of nuns. Really? Which always kind of cracked me up a little bit too, if you think about it. Like, you've got a carload of nuns. They've taken an oath of celibacy. They're not interested in you. What makes you think that showing them your hairy ass or hairless ass, because you were a teenager, was going to be the thing that brought them out of being a nun? It was going to be the thing that were like, you know what? I miss sex so much because of that ass looking at me right now that I'm going to quit my life of celibacy. Mooning. Bart Simpson. Yes, Nilo, you are absolutely correct. Bart Simpson is famous for mooning. That was his whole thing, right? So if it's mooning, wow, here's the question. Then if it's mooning from a child, right? If you tell your child to go moon somebody, can they be charged with sexual offense? Or would it just be marked down as, a tick? That's their tism. That's what I would get away with. Could you imagine that? That's my Tourette's. I don't have a mouth, verbal Tourette's. My Tourette's is I constantly show my bare ass to people. Could you get away with that as an argument? I wonder. That would be so dope if you could. I would totally use that as an excuse, right? Have any of you ever mooned anybody? I mean, I'm sure if you're of that age, then sure, you've been in the road trip where you've done it. There's mooning. There's flashing. Wait, does this mean that flashing is a sexual offense now too? Because I'm out. That's bullshit. Flashing boobs should never be a sexual offense. I mean, they made it okay that women can walk around topless in Ontario, Canada. So if you can walk around topless, you can go into a strip joint. I have to think that like flashing boobs is not an offense. So therefore, ipso facto, if you will, though, when you're watching a movie or a TV show, you are more likely to see a bare butt on that show than you are going to see a pair of boobs, right? I know this because, like, listen, I don't know if any of you watch this show called The Boys, right? But I was watching this show, and then they got this new one out called Gen V. Gen V is like a spinoff, or the college version, right? And there's a lot of bare ass in this, and there's a lot of dick in it too. Okay, a lot of male genitalia, if you will, but no boobs. Even so much so, one of the characters in it has this trick where she can get really, really small by making herself puke. Or she makes herself really, really big by making herself eat. And not like big, like she grows rotund. No, like big, like 70-foot woman thing. And even in doing so in that, they had her do this. Obviously, clothes don't fit when you hulk up to that size. But they had things strategically in place so that you could not see her boobs. I was pissed off, to be honest with you, because I've sat here and watched this show and I've had to look at all this, schwang and wang in front of me on this TV show. All of a sudden, I've got the opportunity to see a gigantic boob and you cash out on me. That's number one bullshit, my friend. Number one. All right. So I can't imagine, like, if that's the case, flashing boobs should be perfectly acceptable. That's all I'm saying. Now, streaking. Oh, that's a good one. That's a fantastic one. You do still see streaking, but I think you only see it at like at games, right? Like baseball and soccer games, and not so much football games because those dudes will rack you. You walk onto that field, but you do still see streaking. But not the way that you used to, where it was like, let's go streaking in the fucking Santa Claus parade. Hey, that Macy's Day, 4th of July or Thanksgiving parade should have more streaking. Absolutely. That would be fucking great. Right? Flashing should be on a woman's driver's license. Yes, absolutely. Should be allowed to carry 2 driver's licenses, one that, you need for ID, and the other one that you hand to the cop to get you out of the ticket. Now, if that's the case and you can have flashing, just boobs on your driver's license, would it be okay for us to put dick pics on our driver's license? Could you imagine pulling up to the, cop pulls you over and you're like, oh, maybe I can get out of this one. And you hand him that driver's license with the old dick pic on it. Anything of interest here to you? Could you imagine if life got that simple? It'd be great. It'd be great. Other than the fact that I would probably still get the ticket. Who are we kidding? We're like, oh, that's very impressive. Is that actual size, sir? No, I'm kidding. Nilo says bears have big asses, and he saw a Christmas streak at Laurier. Now, I'm going to guess here that Nilo, when you saw that Christmas streak at Laurier, it was because you were going to school there, or were you said Christmas streaker, right? Because that's always got to be the thing too. In Laurier, cold ass of winter, covered in 6 feet of snow outside, and you're getting drunk because you didn't go home for the holidays, right? Because your parents only love you enough to send you to school, not actually let you come back. And so you get drunk in the midday and you look at your friends and you're like, hey, I got it. Let's go fucking streaking. Woohoo! Right? I can imagine that. That would be all right. I don't know if I would go streaking at Laurier. First of all, it'd be a dead giveaway that I didn't go to Laurier, because this ain't college material, ladies and gentlemen, let alone university material. By the way, did you know that they have a problem? They have a problem apparently in Canada when you refer to a university as a college. I'm sorry. I mean, listen, unless I put the word community in front of it, it's all colleges to me, right? A university is more prestigious. It's just a longer word. Still gone to college, right? There's fancier ones, fancier colleges. That's it. But apparently they get very irate. And I say apparently because somebody reamed me out one day when I referred to her school as a college. She goes, it was a university. I was like, well, I don't care. And now get out of my house. Make me a sandwich first. I didn't do that last part. Anyways, I digress. One of the funnier ribs that I saw, Nilo says he was just an innocent bystander at this streaking extravaganza of Laurier. Has anybody, there's the other thing. Has anybody ever started a trend? Like you start a cha-cha-cha line, at a party, right? Or you start that mambo line where everybody, the train, right? Has anybody ever been so inspired by somebody else's streaking that they got up and also started streaking? And just a mass epidemic of people dropping trow and running around? I think the funny thing to do, the funnier rib on that one, is you talk your friend into streaking when they take all of their clothes off, because there's going to have to be a conversation, right? There's always got to be a conversation like, well, if I do this, if I go do this streaking thing, you got to promise that you're going to, number one, grab my clothes, and number two, meet me at such and such location so we can get out of here. Otherwise, I'm going to need you to come bail me out of jail. I think the funnier rib would be to just agree to all of that, talk your friend into it. Then when they take off streaking, you grab their shoes, grab their socks, grab their clothes, right? Grab their jacket, whatever. You grab all of that stuff and you leave where you are, waiting for that phone call, waiting to meet up, and then just go home. Could you imagine if you were out streaking and all of a sudden you've got to go the entire, time What if they didn't give you a blanket? What if they didn't give you one of those big old coats? And you get to keep that coat because you've just been rubbing your junk all over the inside of it once they give it to you? Is this a new way to get free winter jackets every year? Just go streaking at a baseball game? Football games? Could you imagine? Could you imagine that you have to sit in the jail cell? Jail cell? The hell was that? Jail cell? This entire time with no clothes on? See, I think there's a lot of downside to streaking being the prank that you choose. You also got to think to yourself, you got to be just a straight up exhibitionist. If you're like, yep, I'm just going to strip down and run around in front of, 15,000 plus people. You got to think that's, you might want to talk to somebody about that one. I believe that nudity should be saved for the bedroom. All the other rooms in the house, of course. The gentlemen's clubs, alleyways, and no time should streakers ever be men. That's just for me. Everybody else has their own thing, right? Streaking was a group event. Probably like in those hippie days, right? The 60s and early 70s. Did disco kill streaking? I wonder. It's interesting. We're talking about some of the other pranks, that we used to do on a lot of people. And it brings me to, we're going to get into this going forward. We're going to talk some pro wrestling and how I got into it and my journey. It took me 26 years plus in the world of professional wrestling. And where it all started, was with like I said, with a gentleman by the name of Waldo Von Erich, gentleman by the name of Johnny Canine, and unfortunately a gentleman by the name of Ike Shaw. Now, Ike Shaw was this guy who was as round as he was tall. Okay. He was a rotund fellow that had a hard time maintaining his cleanliness because he didn't fit into a shower that we had. He ran a school that was like the gym part was, this whole thing was an upstairs level above a bank, which was always funny. So training couldn't happen until after the bank was closed. That's the area that the ring was. But then in the back, he had a dorm room set up that had bunk beds in it, so you could live there, and had a sitting area and a kitchen, and then a back room where he lived, a couple of small offices and bathroom, in an area that was big enough that he put a hot tub in. He put this hot tub in, and this was on the second floor of a building that they put this hot tub in. And it was strictly so he could bathe because he couldn't fit into a regular bathtub. It's too round. Couldn't fit into the shower. Too round, right? Had to use a blanket for a towel, not one of those beach blanket, towel things, like an actual blanket for a towel. That's how big around he was. He used to take morphine patches, and then when they were done, he would say to you, "Oh, there's still some stuff left in these. See if you can sell them." Are you daft? Are you daft? We're going to have some stories about him coming up. There's no doubt about it. But one of the things, as we're talking about pranks, one of the funniest stories that involved him was one of these times he had done a deal. He was always notorious for doing these like shady, like, oh, we'll do this for you, which never fucking happened, if you do this for us first. So he had made this deal at one time with a travel agency because he was going to be flying in all of these superstars. He was going to do it all through this travel agency. They were going to give him this hell of a deal, right? who was really working who at the end of the day, I have no idea. Because he was going to be running all of these shows and big time superstars and TV's coming and this and that, the typical wrestling promoter or promoter bullshit for that matter. So in doing so with this travel agency, he's like, you know what we're going to do as well? We're going to redecorate your entire travel agency, offices here for you. We'll get a fresh new paint job. I'll have my students come down and we'll get this all cleaned up for you. Spick and span, brand new. Really? Yep, no problem. So we would do this thing at night for him. It was a couple of nights, like over a weekend or something like that. No big deal. It wasn't a very big office. But while we were there, and he had the students painting and stuff like that, and Ike Shaw, real name Joe decided that, he needed to go for a piss. And, so he was just going to step outside like dudes, right? Because you don't necessarily have to go into the fucking washroom if you just got to pee. Just step out the back door, have a pee, boom, back to work you go. Okay. So he would go walk out the back door, and then all of a sudden you would hear, because he was one of these guys that you'd have to make noise all the time. It's probably because I think he was, dying inside because his own head was cutting off the fucking airflow through his fucking neck to his lungs. So he's one of these guys as he's pissing. And so we're all inside and we're working away, and you hear this just start screaming at the top of his lungs. We go running out because we're thinking obviously something's happened. Maybe he's having a heart attack or got bit by a badger. Who knows? Stepped on a rusty nail. Who fucking knows? So we go running out there and we're like, what's the matter? What's the matter? And he's like running in place, which was a sight to see because I'm sure that in his mind, he was running a lot faster than he was actually moving. You know what I mean? He looked like one of those great big, huge bouncy balls that you would sit on, and bounce around as a kid. That's what it looked like. And we're like, what's the matter? What's the matter, Joe? What the hell? He's like, I just pissed on that wire. So in doing so, he had pissed on a live wire that was exposed off of one of these like extension cords. And when you piss on a live wire with a liquid substance like that, well, apparently, I don't know because it's never happened to me, but man, it sure looked like it happened to him. Where the electrical current just shoots right up through that liquid flow right into the area that it's coming from, which happens to be this fat man's little pig dick. Now, when he said this, fuck you, all bets are off. We just started laughing our ass off. He did not think us laughing at his demise was very funny, at which point I had to remind him that I am also of German descent, and we have a word for it called Schadenfreude. So yes, I have every right. We've actually gone through the troubles of making a word to describe finding comedy in other people's misery, which is the exact thing that this was. So yeah, I was allowed to laugh at it. I don't know what everybody else's problem was, but I did. No problem. So, hope everybody enjoyed all of those stories. Hope everybody has enjoyed the day. It is just about time for some Sunday kickoff. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their week. It's an episode of Marijuana coming out. You can see, all of this stuff. Please hit that like button on your way out. Thanks for listening to all of this. Like I said, new episode of The Law is coming out. If you have not had a chance to check it out yet, please do so. You can follow us right there along the bottom. You see The Law Wrestling. That is at The Law Wrestling on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And the show is called The Law Live Audio Wrestling, and it's available on all of your podcast providers. And you can listen to that as well. So, that being said, I hope that everybody has a fantastic day. But everybody enjoys a little bit of football action out there. And, when it's all said and done, just got to make sure to take care of one another. Pranks are cool. Criminal activity is not. This is what we've learned today. Okay. And maybe, just maybe, we need to prank people more often to breed that new generation of people that enjoy pranks. I'll tell you straight up right now. I've been doing it with we're going to tell this right now. I do this every year with my nieces. Okay. I've got a niece now who just turned 19. I've been doing it since she was 2 years old. All right. Gave her coal for Christmas. That coal, that piece of coal, actual piece of coal, has gone back and forth inside of one package, one way or another, with us every single Christmas. So she gets it. Every year is a new thing. One year she wanted a pair of these green tag Adidas, these Stan Smiths. Okay. But they had to be the green tag, not the reds, not the blues, not the whites, the green tags. Okay. So she wanted these. Oh, I found them for her. No problem. It's what a good uncle does. Right. So I had these things picked up. And when I gave them to her at Christmas time, a gigantic Tupperware container was handed to her. And you could see the box, the shoe box, right? What I had done is I had wrapped up the shoe box in a bunch of like clear cellophane, saran wrap, and clear tape, more saran wrap, more clear tape, made this thing completely airtight, leak proof, couldn't get into it, layers and layers and layers. Put it in this gigantic Tupperware container and then submerged the entire thing in Jell-O. I know that's second reference for Jell-O on this show this week. That's weird, creepy, but I'm probably going to make Jell-O later. Give her this entire thing, and now it's winter, and this has been sitting outside, and she's got to dig her cold hands into this ice cold, gross Jell-O to get this box out. Once she has the box out, now she's got to get into the box. So she's got to get all of this tape off of it. Eventually, she gets into the box to open up the box to find out that the shoes aren't even in the box. What was in the box was a bunch of pre-made with alcohol Jell-O shooters that I had put in the box. Shoes weren't even in there. I was standing behind her, watching her the whole time, and I had her shoes in my hand. So when she was done finally doing this, here's your shoes. One of the very first ones I ever did with her was I give her a package. It's all wrapped up in duct tape. She opens up. She finally gets into that one. It's another box inside of there that's wrapped up in duct tape. Finally gets into that one. It's another box inside of there, and they're moving all the way down. You know what I mean? Like those nesting dolls, like those Russian nesting dolls, and they're moving all the way down. And finally, she gets to the last box. Of course, duh, you guessed it, wrapped in duct tape. She opens up, finally gets into it, and what do you think the present was inside of that box? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It was a roll of duct tape, an actual roll of duct tape. It's things like that that I've been doing, with my nieces every Christmas and birthday since they were born. Because I want to see them be able to do those things with their kids when they have them. Or even more so, if somebody decides to mess with them somewhere in their life, they're going to be already tuned to it, already hip to that shit. Because, good old Uncle Chris wisened them up at a very young age. I once gave them for Christmas. You can buy these on Amazon. These are great. It's a clear egg, a clear plastic egg that comes with a little tag that gives the story about how you've just bought somebody nothing. The gift for somebody that, doesn't deserve anything, and you bought them nothing. It's just this clear egg. I gave that to her one year, gave it to my younger niece when I was thought that she was old enough to handle it. I put it inside of a piñata. So she finally had to smash this piñata, which was really cool, and gets into it and holds this egg and started to cry. So sometimes in doing so with these pranks, yes, I have made people cry on Christmas. I've always made up for it. There's a thing that you always got to remember when you do these pranks with children like that. It's cool. It's funny. It's great. But you always have to let them win. It's like with a puppy dog. You know what I mean? Just let them win sometimes. So I would always make sure that if I was doing these kind of pranks, the payoff at the end of it was very nice. One time I got my niece a very nice diamond ring, and I submerged it in ice so that she had to, wait for the ice to melt before she could get her gift. And it was ice block inside of an ice block inside of an ice block. She wasn't smart enough to realize that you could just run this entire thing under hot water. Right? These are also lessons that we teach them. Last year, because she was old enough, I made a bottle cage. You took a base and a bunch of threaded rod and a whole bunch of nuts, a bottle of rum chata, because she likes that, put it in there, and basically made this cage that she had to undo about 70 different nuts off of this threaded rod to get this out of said bottle cage. It's great. It's great fun. I would give, Terry Nee gets it, right? I would give nieces and nephews loud toys when they would visit for the long ride home because you were the youngest. See, that's perfect. I as soon as they're old enough to make noise, would you like a karaoke machine or would you like a drum set for Christmas? Because it's not staying in my house, right? And that's more of a rib on the parents at that point. So when you use the kid as the pawn to get at the parent, there's levels. There's levels, right? I'd love to hear in some of the comments. I'd love to hear some more of these things because we can talk about ribs. And maybe there's some that I haven't thought of, and maybe there's some that you haven't thought of, and we can share some back and forth, right? It's always good stuff. I think this is the year of cement for gifts. Whatever they're getting this year might just be submerged. You might need a jackhammer to get this one out. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Christmas is always a lot of fun for that. So, with that being said, everybody have a wonderful day. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful week. Like I said, new episodes of the Mara Wanderers. Hopefully we can catch you guys in there. That's always live. We're trying to get that bumping and up. We are so close with this channel, my TIDtalk channel, about halfway there on what I need to get this thing monetized, right? Which means that obviously watch those ads, everything like that. And that's all because of you guys. So thank you all so much for taking the time to hang out with me on these ridiculous rants of mine, these ridiculous storytelling things of mine. But yes, the Mara Wanderers is just, it's a hoot and a holler. We have a lot of fun. Go check out some of those episodes. Check out some of the shorts. Check out the Law Live Audio Wrestling. Check out the Godfathers of Podcasting as well at thegodfathersofpodcasting.com and available on all of your podcasting providers as well. With that being said, peace and deuces.